Good morning, y'all. We are coming to you from another stormwater retention pond. I know another one, but there's just so many of them around here, and it's hard to not pass up an opportunity to fish, especially because this one is really close to where I live, and it takes like 3 minutes to drive to. I was out doing errands anyways, and this is kind of a not so secret pond. It's kind of strange because it's right by the highway, so it's pretty visible, but there's only like 2 people out here fishing in this. We're recording this on a Saturday morning. It's a beautiful day, very light breeze, perfect fishing conditions, and the place isn't crowded with people fishing it. It's another weird one too because it doesn't have its own parking area like most of the stormwater retention ponds do. You have to park over in this hospital parking area, but as far as I understand, you're allowed to park here to go down to the pond to go fish. And so I've never fished it before. I've seen it driving by on the highway and decided that we're going to stop by and check it out and see what happens to be in the water. So we will see you all down in the water. All right, I'm gonna start off throwing this bigger spinning jig and see if we can't find ourselves a bigger fish.
Noah's going to need help putting his gear.
All right, Noah is gonna fish with some live bait that he found.
I found it.
He decided he wanted to fish with the cricket, so he's gonna try fishing some live bait. So I'm gonna get him help. I'm gonna help him out and get him rigged up. All right, folks, I've already given up on the bigger spinning rig and I'm switching over to a smaller one because there's just like a ton of weeds in here. And this one I can keep it a little bit more shallow and not as deep as that big one. And so I can keep all of these weeds off of my rig. So in all these videos that I've done so far, with the exception of the first 2 over at Oologah Lake, every one of these spots is within a 20-minute drive of me. In fact, most of them are 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away. The furthest one, being like the Verdigris ramp, was like about 20 minutes away or so. So my point is that there's plenty of fishing opportunities in a reasonably close distance to me, and I suspect that's the case with a lot of people if you just kind of look around. I mean, Oologah Lake is about 50 minutes away, so it's a little bit under an hour. We don't really have like it seems like where I live, like all of the big lakes are about an hour or so away. We've got Keystone Lake that's a little bit closer, but I like Oologah a lot. So you have plenty of opportunities to be able to take your kids out and get into some trouble or do some adventuring before you go to work, things of that nature. If you just kind of look around and see what you've got available to you, I'd be willing to bet that you may not have as many opportunities as what I've got in my area. If you live here in this area, then you definitely have tons of opportunities. And we barely scratched the surface on all of the stormwater retention ponds. There's just so many of them, and they all have bass in them, they all have catfish in them, and they all have bluegill, and I'm pretty sure there's some other fish species in them. And then we've got creeks and rivers and lakes and all that stuff around within a very short drive. So I suggest breaking out the old Google Maps, take a look-see, and see if there's anything nearby you, and just check and see if it's got public access, and if it does, then you can plan your next fishing adventure. So the boys have abandoned rod and reel and are attempting to trap minnows with their water bottles that they've emptied, because we don't need water or hydration on a summer day. All right, caught a fish.
Oh, minnow.
A minnow.
Yeah, it's in here.
Let me see. Let me see. Oh, look at him. Look at him, little tiny minnow in there. All right. Well, you caught a fish in this pond. So I've switched back over to a bigger spinning rig. This time I picked something with a little bit more natural colors and then added a watermelon red baby brush hog trailer. It's a big, loud spinning bait, I'll say that. But I saw shad moving out there, and so I know that the bass are going to be eating the shad, so I picked something that's going to be a little bit more close to those colors, and we'll see. There's a little gosling out there with the geese. Looks like they're coming to say hello. So one of the reasons why I've switched over to this bigger spinning rig is it's got more weight, and on this shore right here it seems to be shallow for a long ways and a lot of weeds, so I want to get out a little bit further. But I do have to keep this thing a little bit up towards the top of the water so I don't get stuck in the weeds and end up bringing home a whole bunch of moss. So as soon as it hits the water, I've got to start retrieving to keep it from sinking too far. So since I'm fishing this bigger rig here, I'm casting it way up in the air, and the reason I'm doing that is so that by the time it hits the water I can reel out the slack before it sinks too far, because I still have some pretty decent weeds out there and I want to keep this bait moving along in the top, you know, probably foot or two of water, so I'm not dragging in a whole bunch of weeds and stuff along the way. And even at that, looks like I still managed to find a little bit, but that's just a technique you can use if you've got something that's big and heavy that sinks pretty fast. You can cast it kind of way up there, and so right before it hits the water you can start taking up the slack so it doesn't sink too far, and then you keep it kind of a little bit higher, suspended in the water, and that may work out for you if you're running something a little bit heavier that you don't want to sink as fast. See all the geese here going diving for some weeds and vegetation. That kind of gives you a pretty good indication there's a ton of these aquatic weeds and stuff in here. Look at their cute little butts up in there. That's a little gosling. Don't know if this is commonly known or not, but just fun fact, geese are completely herbivorous. So they don't eat like fish or anything like that. They're just out here eating the aquatic grass, basically. They're not like ducks, where ducks will eat, you know, bugs and fish and whatnot. They're just entirely herbivorous. Fun fact. So I switched back over to my smaller spinning rig so that I can get in here a little bit more shallow and work a little bit more shallow area without getting caught up too much in the weeds. Whoa, that's cool. Must be an air show going on that I don't know about. All right, it's time to pack it up. We gotta let your minnow go though, Noah, before we leave. We don't have anywhere to keep them. No, you can't keep him in your room. All right, this looks like a good spot. There's some other minnow friends for him. Bye, minnow. not a bad day. We did catch a fish, even if it was just a minnow. Noah caught it in his custom fish trap, known as a plastic water bottle. We set him free. Eli found a bobber. We can't seem to go anywhere without one of these kids finding some tackle to add to their tackle box. And they even found a really cool chatterbait stuck in a tree. So we didn't leave this spot empty-handed. And I hope that this kind of shows you guys that you can have fun. And there's plenty of spots, should be plenty of spots available, not so far away from you. You just kind of gotta look around a little bit, and you probably won't be seeing the last of this not so secret pond, because I like it. It's nice. It's a Saturday and it's not super busy and crowded. There's only a few people that have come here, and they fished a little bit. And it's not necessarily super quiet because it's like right in between two highways, but it's still enjoyable. And I did see some pretty decent sized fish jumping around out in the water, so I know there's fish in there. And I got a small bite on one of my big spinning rigs. Didn't really give it a good bite, so I'm assuming whatever fish is willing to attack something that big, it's probably got to be a decent size. But all in all, not a bad day, and we will see you folks on the next adventure.